Hi there, welcome to Earth Analytics. In this video, I'm going to show you how to work with Excel and CSV data in an R environment. If you are new to programming, I post videos on this topic every single week, but let's get started. So the first thing you need to do is import the Read Excel library. So we're going to do that right away. So library, Read Excel. I already have this library imported and installed. If you don't have it, you have to use the install packages function to import it. So that would be simply just using install packages and then read Excel. So run this line of code if you don't have it installed, but if you do, like I do, all you need to do is import it. So let's highlight that and click run. And we can jump right into importing an Excel data set. I'm going to use a built-in data set. The Read Excel package comes with Excel data that you can play with. If you want to use your own data, that's completely fine. But if you want to copy me and use the same data that I'm using, we'll make sure that we're following the same steps. So to use the built-in Excel data, we need to create a variable and set that variable to the path where the file is saved. So let's create a variable called datasetsPath, datasets.path, and we're going to use a function called systemFile, and that will allow us to point to the built-in Excel data from the Read Excel library. I'm going to type out the path, and you can just pause the video and copy me so that we have the same data sets. So this is the function that will allow us to import the Excel data for the built-in data. You can see that we're using the actual data set is called datasets, and then the package is Read Excel. So let's run that. And let's go to the console and see what the variable looks like. So you can see that the variable is really just a file path. So it's nothing more than that. And the only reason we're using the system file function is because it's already built in. If you're using your own data, don't worry about using system file. All you need to do is set datasets.path. And all you need to do is make the datasets path variable equal your file path. So it's pretty much the exact same thing. So now we have a variable that points to where our data is saved. The next thing we want to do is actually import it into our R environment. Right now, we don't have anything in our environment. It's still completely empty. So let's create a new variable called datasets. And we're going to use the read_Excel function to actually import the data. So I'm going to set read Excel. I'm going to point read Excel to datasets.path. And click enter. So we've imported our data. Let's take a look at, let's see what it looks like, datasets. So I'm using the view function in the console, and the view function is great because it'll open up a dedicated tab to this data set. So I just ran the view function, and you can see our data set has been imported. Now, the important thing you need to know about the Read Excel library is that it's only going to import the first page unless you tell it otherwise. So if you look at this data set, datasets.xlxs, you can see that it has 4 different sheets. One of them is a flower data set, one of them is focused on cars, one is on chickens, and one is on earthquakes. If you go to this file path, you'll have the exact same data. So it has 4 different sheets, but if we go back to our R environment, it only imported the flower one. So we need to tell R which sheet we want to work with. If you only want to work with the first one, it's pretty much just this. If you want to work with the second sheet or the third sheet, you have to input the sheet number in the function. So I'm going to put in number 2 because I want to take a look at the car data set. And we can go back to R, click run. And then if we go to our tab with data sets, you'll see that we no longer have the flower data set, we have the car data set imported. So let's try number 3. Go back to the data sets, and now we have the chicken data set. So I'm going to switch back to the car one, and we can continue moving forward. Okay, so what if you don't want to import all of your variables? You only want to import a fraction of them. You can do that using the range argument in the function. It's just called range. and you can input the range of values that you want to work with. So we know that in Excel we have letters for column names, column indexes, so A, B, C, D, and then obviously we have row numbers. So if you want a certain chunk of your data, you can specify that in the range function, the range argument of your function. So let's say I only want the cycle, disp, whatever that means, and HP. I have to specify those columns in my data set. So it's B, C, D, and I'm only going to take the first 10 rows. So let's do that. So we're going to do quotations B1 to D10, D10. Let's run that and take a look. And there you go. So we filtered it down to a small chunk of data, and it's a great way of just making sure that you're only working with what you need. And this is helpful when you have millions and millions of rows of data. You don't want to import all of that. You can filter it down and just import what you need. So let's say I'm happy with this and I'm done. I have what I need and I want to export it. I'm going to show you how to export your data set to a CSV. So we're going to use a function called write CSV, and that will allow us to take our data set and save it in a CSV file. So that's what the function looks like. We have brackets. We're going to specify the data set that we want to export. That's data sets. And then we're going to give it a name. I'm going to call mine sample data frame.csv. And keep in mind that it's going to save where your working directory is. So right now my working directory is on the desktop, so it's going to save to the desktop. Make sure you set your working directory before you save it. So you can do that by clicking session, set working directory, and then you can choose your directory. And that working directory is basically where you want your data to be saved, or it's where your data is coming from. So I'm pointing to my desktop. I'm happy with that. And we have our write CSV, so we can run it. Okay, so I'm gonna go to my desktop and pull open that file. Okay, so I went to my desktop and I got this file, and you can see it pulls open a sample data frame with the 3 columns that I wanted. You'll notice that it also has an extra column. These are row numbers, and R will always export a column of row numbers. If you're happy with them, you can keep them, but you can also go back and turn them off, and it's very simple to do that. In your write CSV function, all you need to do is type out row names equals false, and then run it again. And you'll see that when you open up the new CSV, there's going to be no row names or no row numbers. So a very easy thing to turn on and off. So we've worked with Excel data. We know how to import Excel data. We know how to write CSV data. I'll also show you how to import CSV data, which is what I tend to do more often. I don't really work with Excel data that much, but I work with CSV data quite frequently. And if we want to import the sample data frame that we just created, let's say that we've turned our computer off and we've gone off and we want to come back and work with it again. All we need to do is create a variable. I'm going to call mine small data frame. And we can use a function called read CSV. Looks like this. And all we need to do is specify the name of our data frame. So let's do that. It's called sample data frame.csv. Let's click enter and let's view the data frame. So view small data frame, click enter, and there it is. Now, again, keep in mind, the only reason I was able to import this in this simple, straightforward way is because my working directory is pointing to my desktop, and that's where the data is saved. If you come back a few days later and you try doing this and you haven't set your working directory, it won't work. So always make sure you're pointing to the working directory. So yeah, that's how you import Excel data and read and write CSV data. Hope it was helpful, and if there's anything else you want to see, let me know, and thanks for watching.